Hi, I'm Espen Kraft and I make 80s inspired synth-pop. In my ongoing series of What Was In It, I've come to Music Technology, the December issue of 1986. So if you have 20 minutes to spare, come along with me and we'll check out what was in this issue back then. Music Technology 1986. £1.40. Things have gone more expensive. With an OMD feature, some talking heads from Jerry Harrison, Roland samplers, in-depth reviews of S-10 and S-50. Ah yes, Digital Drummer. I recently did a video on this. A preset rhythm machine featuring 16 digital sound sources. It's a very cool. Check out my video on that. And we have the contents. So the message here is clear. As each new technological advance comes along, we need to moderate our reaction to it. Blank refusal to experiment with new developments is pointless, but so is the casting away of hard-won traditional techniques in favor of the flavor of the month. Ah yes, the MIDI verb. They just don't make ads like this anymore. Aliases, positive effects. And some Brian Eno. And Sonic ads. Kai ads. How about that? That's a cool ad for the Akai X7000 sampler. That was my very first sampler. I have the S700 now in the module form, the X7000 in the module form. But this was my first sampler. Oberheim plays back. Our suspicion has been confirmed. Oberheim have finally entered the digital sampling market. And that's DBX rack mount sample playback expander. Yes, Cheetah. And a nice fat Casio ad. These synthesizers are professional machines played every day by professional musicians at gigs in the studio. The Sequential Circus Prophet 2002 and Studio 440. I can actually remember this, but I never got to spend any time with it, so I haven't really used it, although I've tried it briefly. Prophet VS. And here's the interface section where people can questions. Yamaha stuff, Roland stuff, and here, why is it that as often as not the programs published in Patchwork sound nothing like their title? Patchwork is it's coming later, I guess, where you can send in your own patches for synths that you own. So that was a way of us getting hold of new patches back in the day, because before internet and online download possibilities, we could only make patches for our synths by inventing them ourselves or reading the patch descriptions in magazines like this. And here's a complaint about how the title of patches doesn't seem to match what's coming out of the synths once you've programmed in the patch. That's quite nice and funny to read. There's the Elka 22 and the module version EM22. I've had both of these. Fantastic analog synths. I like those a lot. Palm Tree Instruments eardrums. Not heard of that. More ads. And here's the 440 again. The Lean Mean production machine. It's a kind of studio where you can do sampling and sequencing and stuff like that. A brief review of the Akai MX73 MIDI Master keyboard. Way too big for my studio today. And the MEL FX 1001 signal processor. I never got to test that out. I can't even recall I've seen it live. The Alesis Microverb. That's a cool one. I had that. It was my first processing unit, outboard processing unit. Ah, the Kawai K3 digital wave memory synthesizer. I remember this. I've actually been trying to get hold of this for a while now, in the module form preferably. That's the K3M. But this is along with the Korg DW8000 and from Ensoniq, the ESQ, is a kind of a digital wave memory synthesizer. So the waveforms are stored digital in the synth, and you can use that to make your sounds. Very nice sound, and they all sound a little bit different. So they complement each other for that kind of a digital wave sounding synth. So if I can get a hold of that, I'd have access to all of them. I think it looks nice as well. A little bit like the Roland JX8P with this row of membrane switches. They're in color as well. This is a black and white photo, so you can't see the colors, but it's a cool design. Some more Roland ads. Steinberg Pro Creator, a software for the Yamaha DX, for the Atari ST. I never used that, so I can't say if it was good or not. And here's the Roland S-50 digital sampling keyboard. Probably the greatest sounding sampler Roland ever did in my view. I know a lot of guys says it's the S760 or 770, and those are nice, fantastic samplers as well, but there's something about that sound in the S50 and S550 and the S10 that really appealed to me. And more ads again, the DX5. And some screenshots from the S50. The S50 and 550 had that composite video out, or was it RGB? Maybe both. Anyway, you could see that on the screen, on the monitor, and that made editing stuff and making patches a lot more easy. So here's a feature on panning, actually, how you can pan stuff out to create the illusion of stereo. That's some mixing tricks for you. Yeah, here's the Kawai K3 now. How you can see the colorful color of that machine. I really like the design of that. And our old Fostex 160 4-track cassette recorder. I didn't have that model. I had a couple of Yamahas, but we all had 4-track cassette recorders back in the day, before any computer or sequencer. It's actually a lot of fun recording on those 4 tracks with Dolby C or Dolby S. I think it was Dolby C was the most common. What's this then? Music Machine from RAM. Is a remarkable new peripheral that transforms a home micro into a powerful computer system. Okay, can't see I saw that. At around £50, Fairlight ought to be more than a little worried. Okay. Sight reading, books. I read a lot of books back in the day, and magazines like this always had reviews of books for musicians. MIDI for musicians, etc. And here we have a feature about Talking Head. Well, not so much Talking Head, but it's keyboardist Jerry Harrison. Talking Head was never really a band I was a lot into back then. Never has been, but I do like David Byrne's eccentricity and kind of avant-garde style, but they had a lot of cool sounds, and this guy was responsible for a lot of those sounds. Let's just go over here and see what he has to say. the history of the band and the guy himself. Ah yes, he's talking about the DX7 here. He says he sampled a lot of the DX7 sounds, and the touch sensitivity of those sampled sounds is a lot different from playing the DX7 itself. Yes, I can agree on that. So some more ads. There's a lot of ads in this magazine. Ah yes, that's a cool ad. The lightning plays the key on the Casio CZ1. There was a lot of those since actually the CZ1, CZ101, the 5000, the 3000, the CZ1000. They were pretty much all the same, apart from the size and the keyboards and stuff like that. I don't have any of those now actually, but I like to get a 101 because it's so small and nice, and it can do pretty much everything the big ones can do in terms of sound. And here's the patchwork pages I told you about. A patch for the Roland Alpha Juno, some from the Yamaha DX7, the Pro 1, the Monopoly, and you can see if you had that synth, you just type those parameters into your synth, and it came out with a patch called Time Fluss, and that somewhat angry reader from before was probably not happy with how that sounded when he patched that in. A harmonica, if the harmonica sounds like a trombone, of course you're not happy, but that's how it is. The Bit 1, a couple of patches for the Bit 1, cool. I should try that because I have a Bit 01. Ah, and here's the Bit MIDI Master Keyboard as well. I never tried that one. I have the Bit 01 synth expander, and many of the sounds in that are pretty good, but the Master Keyboard I never tried. Ah, one of my favorite drum machines, the Sequential Tom, I have that one. And here's none other than Paul Whiffen telling about the MIDI Mode 4. I won't go into detail on that, but this is a very advanced drum machine for its time. You can do pretty much everything. So that's nice. 1 MIDI in to 8 MIDI throughs. So we got those back in 1986, of course, because MIDI was dominating. New in stock, Akai X7000. More ads. Live takes. Someone's in Sig Sputnik in the Royal Albert Hall. Okay. Some demo takes. Let's skip that. The new standard, the MIDI sample dump standard. Yes, back then it was a pretty new thing to be able to transfer samples through MIDI. For instance, if you had a sample on one sampler, you could send it to another sampler through MIDI. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't, and this article explains it all. I've done that a number of times. Ah yes, the Yamaha QX5 sequencer. Someone was so kind to donate one of these to me not long ago, and I hope to make a video of it soon. I have videos on the QX3 and QX21 already, and I hope to do videos on all the QX sequencers. I love those. Here's that effects unit I told you about earlier, which I haven't seen live. And more ads. And here's the OMD article. OMD take the Hammersmith Odeon stage to promote their 7th album, The Pacific Age. Advanced setup for this. Ah yes, our stage sound is dominated by emulators. So they have... they use emulator 2 and a Super Jupiter. And they use a Fairlight, another emulator 2, and the Korg Micro preset as well. Okay, so they use a lot of high-end stuff back then. always had the thing for OMD. I still listen to them occasionally. The Roland S-10, that's a fantastic keyboard. So simple, so fast, so easy. It sounds fantastic, just like the S-50 and S-550. If you see an S-10, just pick it up no matter what. It's one of my absolute favorite samplers because it's so easy to use. And I use this more than any other sampler in my productions because it's so very, very easy to sample and it sounds so good. And it even has an inbuilt arpeggiator. Check out my S10 video on my channel. Fantastic sampler. And here we have ads from people back then, and I'll make a scan of a couple of these pages so I can show you in a good quality. And I checked out some of the ads before, and let's see. A Roland Jupiter 8 plus MD8 and JSQ60 from £1,500. A Roland Juno 60 with a JSQ60 sequencer, £400. A Roland Juno 60, $395. A lot of Roland Juno 106s here, £300. Here's a PBG Wave 2.3 for £5,100, so that was high-end back then. Of course, it cost. A Korg Monopoly going for £230. £200 for a Monopoly. Minimoog, £550. A Multimoog going for £60 actually. So that's a cool to see how those have risen in price. Moog Prodigy, £120, and it goes on and on. Some Oberheims DMX going for, yeah, that was £1,150. £1,150. That was pretty expensive, wasn't it? Anyways, Yamaha, not so much high-end Yamaha here. Okay, I'll scan those two pages and make you download it if you want to. The DSS-1, great sampler from Korg. And the last page, another one from Korg, the DDD-1 drum machine. Also a very nice drum machine. Very electronic in sound. Love it. Well, this was the December issue of 1986 of Music Technology. And if you want to see more videos like this, please say so in the comment section. I have a lot of fun making these and going through these with you, so I'd like to do more myself, and if you want to see some more as well, please say so. As always, I'm Espen Kraft, I am the 80s, and until next time, cheers!